Good evening, and welcome to our Zoom production of Our Town. Our Town, one of the greatest American plays to be written, is broken down into three parts. The first act is called Daily Life. Second act is called Love and Marriage. And I think you can guess what the third act is called. It uses no scenery or props, allowing you to appreciate just the words and sentiments. It is simple, but at the same time profound, just like life. In this age of COVID, it is even more relevant. It teaches us to appreciate everything around us, for it is fleeting. Some of you may have lost relatives or friends to COVID this year. I lost my mother to it in May. What I wouldn't give to have one more day to tell her how much she meant to me and how much I loved her. She would be so proud of this show. This show is dedicated to her and the more than 200,000 lives that were lost to this insidious disease. Let's keep wearing our masks, washing our hands, and distancing ourselves from one another and get to the other side of this. We would have loved to present this showcase in real time, but alas, we all are constrained by the global pandemic. We ask you to consider donating the cost of a regular ticket price, $14 to $18, as well as what you might have purchased in concessions. We are persevering, producing great classes, and our students are rising to this unprecedented occasion. These are trying times. We are navigating them with your firm support. Please donate at www.thenicetheater.org. Alternately, mail your donation to TIET, 234 Montgomery Lane, Glenview, Illinois, 60026. We are grateful for your support of your actors and your program. Thank you, and enjoy our show tonight.
Play is called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder, produced and directed by Eileen Hand. In it, you will see Mr. Mule Mueller, Mr. Thomas Sherwin, Mr. Thomas Gallo, Miss Amelia Rogers, Miss Annie Gallo, Miss Felicia Nunez, and many others. The name of our town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just over the line from Massachusetts. Latitude 42 degrees, 40 minutes. Longitude 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. The date is May 7th, 1901, just before dawn. Aye, just about. Sky's just beginning to show some streaks of light over in the east there, back behind our mountain. The morning star always gets wonderful bright the minute before it has to go, doesn't it? Well now, I'll show you how our town lies. Up here is Main Street. Way back there is the railway station, Polish towns across the tracks, and a couple of Canuck families. Congregational churches over there, Presbyterians across the street. Methodist and Unitarian are over there. Baptist is down in the holler by the river. Here's the town hall and the post office combined. Jail's in the basement. Brian once made a speech along those steps there. Along Main Street, there's a row of stores, hitching posts and horse blocks in front of them. First automobile's gonna come along in about 5 years. Belonged to banker Cartwright, our town's richest citizen. Lives up in the big white house up there on the hill. Here's the grocery store and Mr. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to look into these stores once a day. Public school's over yonder, high school's still farther over. 8:45 mornings, noon times, and 3 o'clock afternoons. The whole town can hear the yelling and screaming from those schoolyards. This is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. This is the back door. And this is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. corn, peas, beans, hollyhocks, heliotrope, and a lot of burdock. In those days, our newspapers came out twice a week. The Grover's Corner Sentinel. This is Editor Webb's house. This is Mrs. Webb's garden. Just like Mrs. Gibbs, only it's got a lot of sunflowers too. Right here is a big butternut tree. Nice town, you know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable ever come out of it as far as we know. The earliest dates in the tombstones up there in the cemetery say 1670. They're Grovers and Cartwrights and Gibbses and Hersheys. Same names as around here now. Well, as I said, it's about dawn. The only lights on in town are in a cottage over by the tracks where Polish mothers just had twins. And in the Joe Crowell house, where Joe Jr. is getting ready to deliver the morning paper. And down in the depot, where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to flag the 5:45 for Boston. Naturally, in the country all around, they've been lights on for some time, with milking and so on, but town folks sleep late. So, another day's begun. Here's Doc Gibbs coming down Main Street now, coming back from that baby case. Here's his wife coming downstairs to get breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. New hospital's named after him. Mrs. Gibbs died first, though. Long time ago, in fact. She went out to visit her daughter, Rebecca, who married an insurance man in Canton, Ohio, and died there. Pneumonia. But her body was brought back here. She's up there in the cemetery now, what with a whole mess of Gibbses and Hersheys. She was Julia Hershey, before she married Doc Gibbs in the Congregational Church. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. Here's Mrs. Webb coming downstairs to get her breakfast, too. And here comes Joe Crowell Jr. delivering Mr. Webb's Sentinel.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Joe.
Anybody been sick?
No, just some twins born over in Polish Town.
You want your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it. Anything serious going on in the world since Wednesday?
Yes, sir. My school teacher is getting married to a fellow up in Concord.
I declare. How do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course, it ain't none of my business, but I think if somebody starts out to be a teacher, she ought to stay one.
How's your knee, Joe?
I never find, just like you said, that I never think about it. It only tells me when it's going to rain.
What's it telling you today? Gonna rain?
No, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Never make a mistake?
No, sir.
Want to tell you something about that boy, Joe Crowell, there. Was awful bright. Graduated from the high school here, head of his class. So he got a scholarship to Massachusetts Tech. Graduated head of his class from there, too. Was going to be a great engineer, Joe was, but then the war broke out and he died in France. Yes, sir, all that education for nothing. Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk. In this play, I will take the part of Howie Newsom. Morning, Doc.
Morning, Howie.
Somebody sick?
Pair of twins over to Mrs. Gorslowski's.
Twins, eh? Town's getting bigger every year.
Gonna rain, Howie?
No, fine day. It'll burn through. Come on, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Howie?
Going on 17. Bessie's all mixed up about the routes now that the Lockharts stopped taking their court every day. Wants to leave him one just the same. Keeps scolding me the whole trip.
Good morning, Howie.
Morning, Mrs. Gibbs. Doc's just coming down the street.
Is he? Seems like you're late today.
Something went wrong with the separator. Dunno what it was.
Children, time to get up.
Come on, Bessie.
George, Rebecca.
morning, Julia.
Everything all right, Frank?
Yes, I declare. Easy as kittens.
Sit down and drink your coffee. Bacon will be ready in a minute. You can catch a couple hours sleep this morning, can't you?
Mrs. Wentworth's coming at 11. Guess I know what it's about to. Her, stomach. Ain't what it ought to be.
All told, you won't get more than 3 hours of sleep. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what's going to become of you. I do wish I could get you to go and take a rest. I think it would do you good.
Emily, 7 o'clock.
I declare, you've got to speak to George. Seems like something's come over him lately. He's no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Is he sassy to you?
No, he just whines. All he thinks about is that baseball. George! Rebecca! You'll be late for school! George!
George, look sharp!
Yes, Pa.
Don't you hear your mother calling you? Guess I'll go upstairs and get 40 winks.
Well, Emily, you're leaving for school. Well, you have yourself good, or I'll come up and do it myself.
Ma, what dress shall I wear?
Don't make a sound. Your father's been out all night and needs his rest. I've washed and ironed the blue gingham for you special.
Oh, Ma, I hate that dress.
Oh, hush up with you.
Every day I go to school dressed like a sick turkey.
Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Mama, George is throwing soap at me.
I'll come up and slap the both of you. That's what I'll do.
We got a mill in our town, too. Hear it? Makes blankets. Cartwrights own it. And it's brung 'em a fortune.
And Mama, I won't have it. Breakfast is just as good as any other meal, and I won't have him gobble my food. It'll stunt their growth, that's a fact. Why put away your book?
Oh, Mom, by 10 o'clock, I've got to know all about Canada.
You know the rule as well as I do. No books at table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bred.
I'm both, Mama. You know that. I'm the smartest girl in school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'm bright, too, when I'm looking at my stamp collection.
I'll speak to your father about it when he's rested. Seems to me 25 cents a week's enough for a boy your age. I declare, I don't know what you spend it all on.
Oh, Ma, I got a lot of things to buy.
Strawberry phosphates, that's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She's got more than $1.
I've been saving up gradual.
Well, dear, I do think it's a good thing to spend some every now and then.
Mama, you know that I love most in the world, do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
Walk back into the room. Emily, pull up your pants off the seat. Stand up straight, Emily.
Tell Miss Foster I send her my best congratulations. Can you remember that?
Yes, Ma.
You look real nice, Rebecca. Pick up your feet.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Don't go away, Hugh. Go away. Oh, what's the matter with you? Fight. That's all you do. You don't belong to me. Where'd you come from? Oh, don't be so scared. Nobody's going to hurt you. Good morning, Rhoda. How's your cold?
I still get that tickling feeling in my throat. I told Carl and didn't know if I'd go to choir practice tonight. Wouldn't be any use.
Have you tried singing over your voice?
Yes, but somehow I can't do that and stand key. While I'm resting myself, I thought I'd sing some of these keys.
Here, let me help you. Beans have begun this year.
I decided to put up 44 stick kills me. Some friends say they hate them, but I noticed they're able to eat them down all winter.
No, Myrtle, I've got to tell you something. Because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
What is Julia good?
Here, give me some more of those beans. Myrtle, did one of those second-hand furniture men from Boston come to visit you last Friday?
No.
Well, he called on me. First I thought it was a patient wanting to see Dr. Gibbs. Then he wormed his way into my parlor and, Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wentworth's highboy as I'm sitting here.
What did Julia give?
He did, that old thing. It was so big I didn't know where to put it, and I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you're going to take it, aren't you?
I don't know.
You don't know? $350? What's come over you?
Well, if I could get the doctor to take the money and go someplace on a real trip, I'd sell it like that. You know, Myrtle, it's been the dream of my life to see Paris, France. Oh, I don't know. It sounds crazy, I suppose. For years I've been promising myself that if we ever got the chance.
How does the doctor feel about it?
Well, I did beat about the bush a little. I said that if I got a legacy, that's the way I put it, I'd make him take me someplace.
What did he say?
Oh, you know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since I've known him. No, he said it might make him discontented with Grover's Corners to go traipsing about Europe. Better let well enough alone, he says. Every 2 years he makes a trip to the battlefields of the Civil War, and that's enough treat for anybody, he says.
Well, Mr. Webb just admires the way Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. Mr. Webb's a good mind to give up Napoleon and move over to the Civil War. Only Dr. Gibbs is one of the greatest experts in the country. Just makes him despair.
It's a fact. Dr. Gibbs is never so happy as when he's at Antietam at Gettysburg. Times I've walked over those hills, Myrtle, stepping in every bush and pacing it all out like we're gonna buy it.
Well, if that second-hand man really serious about buying it, Julia, just sell it. And then we'll get to see Paris, alright? Just keep dropping him from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry I mentioned it. It seems to me that once in your life, before you die, you ought to see a country where they don't talk in English and don't even want to.
Thank you very much, ladies. Now, we'll skip a few hours. But first, we want a little more information about the town. Sort of a scientific account, you might say. So I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to come sketch in a few details of our past history here. Professor Willard? May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university? Just a few brief notes, Professor. Unfortunately, our time is limited.
Grover's Corners, let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old Pleistocene granite of the Appalachian Range. I may say, it's some of the oldest land in the world. We're very proud of that here. Of course, there are a few more recent outcroppings. Some sandstone showing through a shelf of Devonian basalt, some vestiges of Mesozoic shale, but these are comparatively new, some 200 or 300 million years. Some highly interesting fossils have been found. I may say unique fossils, found 2 miles north of the Peckham Farm in Peckham Sizes cow pasture. These may be seen at the Museum of the University at any time. That is, any reasonable time. Shall I read some of Professor Gruber's notes on meteorological situation, mean precipitation, etc.?
Sorry, Professor. Unfortunately, we won't have time for that. We might have a few words on the history of man here.
Oh, anthropological data?
Yes.
Early Amerindian stock, Cotahattie tribes. No evidence before the 10th century of this era. Now entirely disappeared. Oh, few traces in 3 families. Early migration of the part of the 17th century of the earlier brachiocephalic blue-eyed stock. Since then, some Slav and Mediterranean.
And the population, Professor Willard?
Within the town limits, 2,640.
Just a moment, Professor.
2,642. The postal district brings in 507 more, making a total of 3,149. Mortality birth rates constant by McPherson's gauge, 6.032.
Thank you very much, Professor. I'm sure we're all very much obliged to you.
Not at all, sir, not at all.
Now, the political and social report with Editor Webb. Oh, Mr. Webb.
He'll be here in a minute. He just cut his tongue while eating his apple.
Thank you, Mrs. Webb.
Charles, everybody's waiting!
Mr. Webb is publisher and editor of the Grover's Corner Sentinel. That's our local paper, you know.
Oh, don't have to tell you that we're run here by a board of selectmen. All males vote at the age of 21. One vote indirect. We're upper middle class, sprinkle in of professional men, 10% illiterate laborers. Politically, we're 86% Republican, 6% Democrat, 4% Socialist, rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestant, 12% Catholic, rest indifferent.
Now, is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask Editor Webb any questions?
Is there much drinking in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, I don't know what you mean by much. Saturday nights, the farmhands meets down in Ellery Greenup stables to holler some. We've got 1 or 2 town drunks, but they're always having remorses every time an evangelist comes through town. No, ma'am, I'd say liquor ain't a regular thing in the house here, except in the medicine cabinet. Right good for a snake bite, always was.
Is no one in town aware of?
You there, come forward, will you? Where we can all hear you.
Is there no one in town aware of social injustice and industrial inequality?
Why, yes, everyone is. Something terrible. Seems they're all worried about who's rich and who's poor.
Then why don't they do something about it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we're all looking, just like everybody else, for a way the sensible and diligent can rise to the top, and the lazy and quarrelsome sink to the bottom. In the meantime, we try to help those that can't help themselves, and those that can we leave well enough alone.
Mr. Webb,
Yes, ma'am?
Mr. Webb, is there any culture or love of beauty in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, there ain't much, not in the way you mean. Come to think of it, there's some girls who play the piano over at high school commencement, but they don't like it. No, ma'am, there ain't much culture the way you mean. But maybe this is the time to tell you that we've got a lot of pleasures of kind here. We all like the sun coming up over the mountain, and the birds. We all notice a lot about them. It's the change of the seasons. Yes, everybody knows it. But those other things, you're right, ma'am. Robinson Crusoe and the Bible, and Handel's Largo, and Whistler's Mother, that's about as far as we go.
So I thought. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Now, we'll go back to the town. It's early afternoon. All 2,642 have had their dinners and all the dishes have been washed. There's an early afternoon calm about the town, buzzing and a humming from the school buildings, only a few buggies on Main Street. You all remember what it's like. Doc Gibbs is in his office, tapping people, making them say, ah. Mr. Webb is cutting his lawn over there. One man in 10 says it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower. No, sir, it's later than I thought. The children are coming back from school already.
I can't, Lois. I gotta go home and help my mother, I promise.
Emily, walk simply. Who do you think you are today?
Papa, you're terrible. 1 minute you tell me to stand up straight, and the next you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Golly, I never got a kiss from such a wonderful lady before.
Excuse me, Mrs. Forrest.
You go out and play in the fields, young man. You've got no business playing baseball on Main Street.
Awful sorry, Mrs. Forrest. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
You made a fine speech in class.
Well, I was really ready to make a speech about the Monroe Doctrine, but at the last minute, Miss Corcoran made me talk about the Louisiana Purchase instead. Worked an awful long time on both of them.
Gee, it's funny, Emily. From my window up there, I can just see your head nights over when you're doing homework in your room.
What can you?
You certainly do stick to it. Emily, I don't see how you can sit still so long. I guess you like school.
Well, I always feel it's something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it, really. It passes the time.
Yeah. Emily, what do you think? We could work out some type of telegraph from your window to mine. And every once in a while, you could give me a hint or two of one of those algebra problems. Not the answer, of course, just a little hint.
Oh, well, I think hints are allowed, so if you get stuck, George, you just whistle to me and I'll give you some hints.
Emily, you're just naturally bright, I guess.
I figure it's just the way a person's born.
Yeah, but you see, I want to be a farmer. And my Uncle Luke says, whenever I'm ready, I can come work on his farm. And if I'm any good, I'll gradually have it.
You mean the house and everything?
Yeah, well, thanks. I better be getting off to the baseball field. Thanks for the talk, Emily. Oh, good afternoon, Mrs. Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, come and help me clean these beans for the winter. Why, George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Why, he's growing up. How old would George be?
Oh.
Let's see. He must be almost 16.
Mama, I made a speech in class today, and it was very good.
Well, you must have said it to your father at supper. What was it about?
The Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off a spool. I'm going to make speeches all my life. Mama, are these big enough?
Find them a little bigger if you can.
Mama, will you answer me a question serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously. Will you?
Of course I will.
Mama? Am I good looking?
Yes, of course you are. Both my children had good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, well, am I pretty?
I've already told you yes. Now that's enough of that. You have a nice, and pretty face, and I've never heard of such foolishness.
Mama, you never tell us the truth about anything.
But I am telling you the truth.
Mama, were you pretty?
Yes, I was if I did say it. I was the prettiest girl in town next to Mamie Cartwright.
But Mama, you've got to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody? To get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. Now stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Come along now and bring that bowl with you.
Mama, you're no help at all.
Now, I think this is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests have just begun building a new bank in Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. But they've asked a friend of mine what they should put in the cornerstones for people to dig up 1,000 years from now. Of course, they've put in a copy of the New York Times and a copy of Mr. Webb's Sentinel. We're kind of interested in this because some scientific fellows have found a way of painting all that reading matter with a special type of glue, silicate glue, that'll make it keep 1,000, 2,000 years. They're putting in a Bible and a copy of the Constitution of the United States and a copy of William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it, but all we know about them is some names of kings, some copies of wheat contracts, sales of slaves. Yes, every night, all those families sat down to supper. Father came home from work, smoke went up the chimney, same as here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we know about the real life of the people is what we can piece together out of the joking poems and comedies they wrote for the theater back then. So I'm going to have a copy of this play put in the cornerstones, so people 1,000 years from now will know a few simple facts about us, more than the Treaty of Versailles and the Lindbergh flights. so that people 1,000 years from now, this is the way we were at the beginning of the 20th century in the provinces north of New York. This is the way we were in our growing up, in our marrying, and in our living, and in our dying. Now, we'll get back to Grover's Corners. It's evening. You can hear the choir practice going on in the Congregational Church. Children are at home doing their schoolwork, and the day is running down like a tired clock.
Now again, and remember, music came into the world to give pleasure. Now try it again. Doctor! Look here, everybody. Get it out of your heads that music's only good when it's loud. Leave loudness to the Methodists. You couldn't beat them even if you wanted to. Now again, tenors.
Psst. Emily.
Oh,
Hello.
I can't work at all. Moonlight's so terrible.
Emily, did you get the third problem? The third.
Yes, George. That's the easiest of them all.
I don't see it, Emily. Can you give me a hint?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The answer's in yards.
In yards? How do you mean?
Well, square yards.
Oh, in square yards.
Yes, George. Don't you see?
Yeah.
In square yards of wallpaper.
Wallpaper. Oh, I see. Thanks a lot, Emily.
You're welcome. Hi, isn't the moonlight terrible? And a choir practice going on? I think you hold your breath. You can hear the train all the way to Kentucky.
What do you know?
Well, I guess I better go back and try to work.
Good night, Emily. And thanks.
Good night, George.
That's better, but it ain't no miracle. Now, before I forget it, how many of you will be able to come on Tuesday at Fred Hershey's wedding? That'll be fine. That'll be right nice. We'll do the same music we did for Jane Trowbridge's last month. Now again, art thou weary? Art thou languid? It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk. Oh, George, can you come down in a minute?
Yes, Pa.
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only keep you a minute. George, how old are you?
I'm 16. Almost 17.
What do you want to do after school's over?
Why, you know. I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
You'll be willing, will you? To get up early and milk and feed the stock? And you'll be able to hoe and hay all day?
Sure I will. What do you mean, Pa?
Well, George, while I was in my office today, I heard a funny sound. And what do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There you see your mother getting up early, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing, and still she has to go out in the backyard and chop wood. I suppose she just got tired of asking you. She just gave up and decided it would be easier to do it herself. And you eat her meals and put on the clothes she keeps nice for you. And you run off and play baseball, like she's some hired girl we keep around the house, but that we don't like very much. Well, I knew all I had to do was call your attention to it. Here's a handkerchief, son. George, I decided to raise your spending money, 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother, because that's a sort of present you give her, but because you're getting older. I imagine there are plenty of things you must find to do with it.
Thanks, Pa.
Let's see, tomorrow's payday. You can count on it. Probably Rebecca feels she ought to have some more, too. What could have happened to your mother? Choir practice was never this late before.
It's only 8:30, Pa.
I don't know why she's in that old choir anyway. She hasn't got any more voice than an old crow. And traipsing around the streets at this hour of the night. Just about time you retire, don't you think?
Yes, Pa.
Night, Martha. Good night, Mr. Foster.
I hope you want to put it in the paper.
My, it's late.
Good night, Irma.
Very nice choir practice, wasn't it?
Mm.
Wow. Look at that moon. Potato weather for sure.
Well, naturally, I didn't want to say a word on front of those others, but now that we're alone, really, it's the worst cow that ever was in this town.
What?
Simon Stimson.
No, Luella.
But Julia, to have the organist of a church drink and drunk year after year. Julia, you know he was drunk tonight.
Now, Luella, we all know about his troubles, and Mr. Ferguson knows too. And if Dr. Ferguson decides to keep him on at his job, then the only thing the rest of us can do is just not notice it.
Not to notice it, but it's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. It's getting better. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have, and it doesn't happen anywhere near so often. I hate to go to bed on a night like this. Crisis, I'd better hurry, or those children will be turning up all hours. Good night, Luella. Julia.
Can you get home safe, Luella?
Of course, it's as bright as day. I can see Mr. Soames scowling at the windows now. You'd think we'd been to a dance that would men folk carry on. Good night, Julia.
Good night. Well, we had a real good time.
You're late enough.
Frank, it isn't any later than usual.
You stopping at the corner to gossip with a lot of hens.
Oh, Frank, don't be grouchy. Come out and smell the heliotrope in the moonlight. All the time while I was gone.
Oh, I read, as usual. What were the girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, Frank, they really do have something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson? Far gone, was he?
Worst I've ever seen him. How that'll end, Frank, I don't know. Dr. Ferguson can't keep forgiving him forever.
Well, I suppose I know more about Simon Stimson's affairs than anybody in this town. Some people just ain't made for small-town life. I don't know how that'll end, but nothing we can do but leave it alone. Get in.
Not yet, Frank. I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
I think it's my duty to make some plans for you to get a real rest and change. If I get that legacy, well, I'm going to insist on it.
No, Julia, there's no sense in going over that again.
But Frank, you're just unreasonable.
Come on, Julia. It's getting late. First thing you know, you'll catch cold. I gave George a piece of my mind tonight. I reckon you'll have your wood chopped for a while at least. No, start getting upstairs.
Oh, dear, seems like there's always so many things to pick up. You know, Frank, Mrs. Fairchild always locks her front door every night. All those people in that part of town do.
We're all getting cityfied. That's the trouble with them. They haven't got anything fit to burgle, and everyone knows it.
Get out, Rebecca. There's only room for one at this window. You're always spoiling everything.
Hey, look, just a minute.
Use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think, do you? I think that maybe the moon's getting nearer and nearer and there'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting near, those guys that sit up with those telescopes would see it first, and they'd tell about it, and it'd be all in the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights in town are out. Here comes Constable Warren, trying a few doors on Main Street. And here's Editor Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Mr. Webb.
What? Quite a moon.
Yeah.
All quiet tonight?
Simon Simpson is rolling around a little. I just saw his wife moving to hunt for him, so I looked well to him. Here he is now.
Good evening, Simon. Most of the town seems to have settled down for the night. Yes. Good evening, Simon. The town seems to have settled down for the night pretty well. Reckon we'd better do the same. Can I walk a ways with you?
I'm not sure if that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
Well, he's seen a peck of trouble, one thing after another. Say, Bill, if you see my boy smoking cigarettes, just give him a word for me, will you? He thinks a lot of you.
I don't think he smokes enough cigarettes, Mr. Webb. He smokes not more than 2 or 3 a year.
I hope not. Well, good evening, Bill.
Good evening.
Who's there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's me, Papa.
Emily, what are you doing up?
I just can't sleep yet, Papa. Isn't the moonlight wonderful? And the smell of Mrs. Gibbs' heliotrope. Can you smell it?
Emily, you haven't any troubles on your mind, have you?
Troubles, Papa. No.
Well, don't let your mother catch you. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
I never told you about that letter Jane Crowfoot got from her minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter, and on the envelope the address went like this. Jane Crowfoot, Crowfoot Farm, Groves Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
What's funny about that?
But listen, it's not finished. United States of America, continent, North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
What do you know?
Yep, and the postman delivered it just the same.
What do you know?
That's the end of the first act, friends. You can go out and smoke now, those that smoke.
storms come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountains a little bit more, and the rains brought down some of the dirt. Some babies that weren't even born before have begun talking regular sentences already. And some people who thought they were right young and spry have noticed they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to without their hearts fluttering a little. All that can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushing and contriving in other ways too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, the mountain got bit away a few more fractions of an inch, and millions of gallons of water have passed by the mill. Here and there, a new home was set up under a roof. Almost everybody in the world gets married. You know what I mean? In our town, there aren't hardly any exceptions. Almost everybody in the world climbs into their graves married. The first act was called Daily Life. This act is called Love and Marriage. There's another act coming after this one. I reckon you can guess what that one's about. So, it's 3 years later, 1904. It's July 7th, just after high school commencement. That's the time most of our young people jump up and get married, as soon as they pass their last examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations. Looks like they suddenly feel themselves fit to get married. It's early morning again, only this time it's been rainy. It's been pouring and thundering. Mrs. Gibbs' garden here and Mrs. Webb's drenched. All those bean poles and pea vines drenched. All over there on Main Street, it looked like curtains being blown along. Don't know now. They begin again any minute. There's the 5:45 train for Boston. And there is Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb, come downstairs to make breakfast, just as if it were an ordinary day. And I don't have to point out to the women in the audience that both these ladies they see before them, both these ladies have cooked 3 meals a day, one for 20 years and one for 40, never had any summer vacations. They raised 2 children apiece, washed and cleaned the house, and never had a nervous breakdown. Never thought themselves hard-used either. It's like what one of those old Midwest poets said, gotta love life to have life, gotta have life to love it. It's what they call a vicious circle.
Giddy up, Bessie.
There's Howie Newsom and Bessie delivering the milk, and there's Cy Crowell delivering the papers, just like his brother before him.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Cy. Anything in the papers I ought to know?
Nothing much except for losing about the best baseball pitcher Grover's Corners ever had, George Gibbs.
I reckon he is.
He could hit and run bases, too.
Mighty fine ball player. Whoa, Bessie. Guess I can stop and talk if I have a mind to.
I don't see how I could give up something like that just to get married. Would you, Howie?
Can't tell, Cy. Never had no talent that way. Morning, Bill. You're up early.
And seeing if there's anything I can do to prevent a flood. The river's been rising all night.
Cy Crowell here is all torn up about George Gibbs retiring from baseball.
That's how it goes, Cy. Back in '84, we had a player not even George Gibbs could touch him, named Hank Todd. Moved up to Maine and became a parson. Wonderful ball player. Howie, how's the weather look to you?
Oh, it ain't bad. Think maybe it'll clear up for good.
Good morning, Howie. Do you think it's going to rain again?
Oh, it's been raining so heavy. Think maybe it'll clear up.
Certainly hope it will.
My wife told me to tell you special. That we hope they'll be happy. We know they will.
Thanks a lot, Howie. And tell your wife I hope she can get there to the wedding.
Yes, she'll be there. She'll be there if she can. Morning, Mrs. Webb.
Well, good morning, Mr. Newsom. I told you 4 parts of milk, but I hope it's sparing another.
Yes'm, and 2 cream.
Let's start raining again, Howie.
Oh, I was just telling Mrs. Gibbs over there that maybe it'll lighten up. We hope to get there to the wedding all right. Couldn't miss that. Come on, Bessie.
Thank you, and thank Mrs. Newsom, and my consequence thank you in the church.
Well, Ma, the day has come. You're losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't you say another word. I feel like crying every minute. Sit down and drink your coffee.
The groom's up shaving himself. Only there ain't an awful lot to shave. Whistling and singing like he's glad to leave us. Every now and then I hear him say, "I do," to the mirror. But it don't sound convincing to me.
I don't know how he'll get along, Frank. I've arranged his clothes and seen to it he's put warm things on. Frank, they're too young. Emily won't think of such things. He'll catch his death of cold within a week.
I remember my wedding morning, Julia.
No, don't you start that.
I was the scaredest young fella in the state of New Hampshire. I thought I had made a mistake for sure. When I saw you coming down that aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I had ever seen. The only trouble was, I'd never seen you before. There I was in the Congregational Church, marrying a total stranger.
And how do you think I felt? Frank, weddings are perfectly awful things. Farces, that's what they are. Here, I made something for you.
Why, Julia Hershey! French toast!
Tain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
How'd you sleep last night, Julia?
Well, I heard an awful lot of the hours struck off.
I get a shock every time I think of George setting out to be a family man. That great gangling thing. I tell you, Julia, there's nothing so terrifying in the world as a son. The relationship of father and son is the darndest awkwardest.
Well, mother and daughter's no picnic, let me tell you.
They'll have a lot of troubles, I suppose. That's none of our business. Everyone has a right to their own troubles.
Yes. People are meant to live through life 2 by 2. It ain't natural to be lonesome.
Do you know what things I was afraid of when I married you, Julia?
I'll go along with you.
I was afraid we wouldn't have material for conversation. Would last us a few weeks. I was afraid we'd run out and eat our meals in silence. That's a fact. Well, you and I have been conversing for 20 years now without any noticeable barren spells.
Yes, good weather, bad weather, tain't very choice, but I always find something to say. Have you heard Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
No. And only day of the year, Rebecca has been managing everyone's business up there. She's hiding in her room. Got the idea she's crying.
Lord sakes, this has got to stop. Rebecca! Rebecca! Come and get your breakfast!
Good morning, everybody. Only 5 more hours to live.
George Gibbs, where do you think you're going?
Just stepping across the grass to see my girl.
No, George, you put on your overshoes. It's raining torrents. You don't go out of
Ma.
this without you prepared for it.
Oh, Ma, it's just a step.
You'll catch that cold cough all through the service.
George, do as your mother tells you.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weathers, but while you're in my house, you'll live wisely, thank you. Maybe Mrs. Webb isn't used to callings at 7 in the morning. Here, take a cup of coffee first.
Be back in a minute. Good morning, Mrs. Webb.
Good morning, George. Goodness, you frightened me. Now, George, I hate to say it. You can't stay here a minute out of the rain. But really, George, you understand. I can't ask you in.
Why not?
Why, George? You know the rule as well as I can. Everyone can't see his bride on his wedding day. Not until he sees her in the church.
That's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in superstitions, do you?
Well, George, there's lots of common sense that can be found in superstitions.
Millions have fallen, George. Don't you be the first to fly in the face of custom.
How is Emily?
She hasn't waked up yet. I haven't heard a sound out of her.
Emily's asleep?
No wonder. We were up till all hours sewing and packing. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. George, you sit down here a minute with Mr. Webb and drink this cup of coffee. And I'll run upstairs and see if they don't come down to surprise you. There's some bacon too, but don't be long about it.
Well, George, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Mr. Webb, what sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, George, on her wedding morning, a girl's head's apt to be full of, clothes and one thing and another. Don't you think that's probably it?
Yes. I never thought of that.
A girl's apt to be a mite nervous on her wedding day.
I wish a fellow could just get married without all that marching up and down.
Every man that's ever lived has felt that way, George, but it hasn't been any use. It's the women folk who've built up weddings, my boy, and for a while now, they've had it all their own. A man looks mighty small at a wedding, George. All those good women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure that the knot's tied in a mighty public way.
But you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Yes. Oh, yes. Now, don't misunderstand me, George. Marriage is a wonderful thing. A wonderful thing. Don't you forget that.
No, sir. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
Well, you see, I'd been away to college, and it's taken some time to get settled. But Mrs. Webb, she wasn't much older than what Emily is now. Oh, age hasn't got much to do with it when compared with other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
I don't know. Was I going to say something? George, I was remembering the other night the advice my father gave me when I got married. Oh, yes, he said. Charles, he said. Start right off showing who's boss. Best thing to do is to give an order, even if it don't make sense, just so she'll learn to obey. And then he said, oh, yes, if anything about her irritates you, her conversation or anything, get right up and leave the house. That'll make it clear to her. And then, oh, yes, he said, never let your wife know anything about how much money you have. Never.
Well, Mr. Webb, I don't think I could.
So I took the exact opposite of his advice and have been happy ever since. And let that be a lesson to you, George, to never ask advice of anybody on personal matters. George, are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you going to have chickens on your farm?
Uncle Luke's never been much interested, but I thought.
George, a book came into my office recently on the philo system of raising chickens. I wish you'd take a look at it. I've been thinking of beginning in a small way myself, in the backyard. I'll have an incubator in the cellar.
Charles, are you talking about that incubator again? I thought you should be talking about things worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you want to give the boy some good advice, I'll go upstairs.
George, Emily's got to come down and eat her breakfast. She said she will love, but she doesn't want to lay her eyes on you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Myrtle, I guess you didn't know about that other superstition.
What do you mean, Charles?
Since the caveman, no bridegroom should see his father-in-law on the day of the wedding, or close to it. Now remember that.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Now I'll have to interrupt again here. You see, we want to know how all this began, this wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. How do such things begin? You know how it is. You're 21 or 22, you make some decisions, and whoosh, you're 70. You've been a lawyer for 50 years, and that white-haired lady by your side has eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? Well, George and Emily are now going to show you the conversation they first had when they knew, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But before they do that, I want you to try and remember what it was like when you were very young, and particularly the days when you were first in love, when you were like a person sleepwalking. You didn't quite see the street you were walking in, and didn't quite hear everything that was said to you. You're just a little bit crazy. You remember that, please? Now they'll be coming out of high school at 3 o'clock. George has just been elected president of the senior class, and as this is June, he'll be president of the senior class all next year. Emily has just been elected secretary and treasurer. Now, I don't have to tell you how important that is. Daya, there they are coming down Main Street now.
I can't, Lois. I gotta go home. Goodbye. Oh, Ernestine, can you come over and do Latin tonight? Isn't that Cicero the worst thing? Well, tell your mother you have to. Goodbye. Oh, goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
Can I carry your books home for you, Emily?
Why, thank you. This isn't far.
Excuse me a minute, Emily. Say, Bob, if I'm late, give her some long high ones.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Goodbye, Lizzie. I'm awful glad you're elected too, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
You've been treating me so funny lately.
Well, since you ask, I might as well say it right out. George, oh, goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. What is it?
I don't like the whole change that's come over you in the past year. I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings, but I've just got to tell the truth and shame the devil.
A change? What do you mean?
Well, up to a year ago, I used to like you a lot, and I used to watch you while you did everything, because we've been friends so long. And then you started spending all your time at baseball, and you never stopped to speak to anybody, not to really speak, not even to your own family you didn't. And George, it's a fact, ever since you've been elected captain, you've gotten awful stuck up and conceited, and all the girls say so, and it hurts me to hear them say it, but I got to agree with them a little bit because it's true. And I'm sorry if all of this hurts your feelings, but I can't be sorry I said it.
I'm glad you said it, Emily. I never thought such a thing was happening to me. I guess it's hard for a fellow not to have faults creeping his character.
I always expect a man to be perfect, and I think he should be.
Oh, I don't think it's possible to be perfect, Emily.
Well, my father is. And as far as I can tell, your father is. There's no reason on earth why you shouldn't be, too.
Well, I feel it's the other way around. That men aren't naturally good, but girls are.
Well, I can tell you right now that I'm not perfect. It's not as easy for a girl to be as perfect as a man because the girls are more nervous. I'm sorry I said all those things about you. I don't know what made me say it.
Emily.
And now I see it's not the truth at all, and I suddenly feel it's not important anyway.
Emily, would you like an ice cream soda or something before you go home?
Oh, thank you. I would.
Good afternoon, Mr. Morgan.
Good afternoon, George. Good afternoon, Emily. What can I do for you? Why, Emily Webb, what have you been crying about?
She got an awful scare, Mr. Morgan. She almost got hit by the hardware store wagon. Everybody says John Huckins drives like a crazy man.
I tell you, you gotta look both ways before you cross Main Street these days. Here, take a drink of water, Emily. What can I do for you?
I'll have a strawberry phosphate, Mr. Morgan.
No, Emily. Have an ice cream soda with me. 2 strawberry ice cream sodas, Mr. Morgan.
2 strawberry ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to tell you, there are 225 horses in Grover's Corners this minute I'm talking to you. State inspector was in here yesterday. Says they're bringing in these new automobiles. Best thing to do is stay home. Why? I can remember when dogs used to sleep in the middle of the street all day and nothing ever come to disturb it. Here you are. Enjoy them. Yes, Mrs. Ellis? What can I do for you?
They're so expensive.
No. Don't think of that. We're celebrating our election. And you know what else I'm celebrating?
No.
I'm celebrating because I've got a friend that tells me everything I ought to be told.
Oh, George, please don't think of that. I don't know what made me say it. It's not true.
No, Emily. You stick to it. I'm glad you said it. But you see, I'm going to change. I'm going to change so quick. You bet I'm going to change. And Emily, I want to ask you a favor.
What?
Emily, if I go away to agriculture school, will you write me a letter every once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George.
certainly seems being away for 3 years and get out of touch with things. Maybe letters from Grover's Corners wouldn't be so interesting after a while. Grover's Corners isn't a very important place when you think of all New Hampshire, but I think it's a very nice town.
The day wouldn't come when I wouldn't want to know everything that's happening here. I know that's true, Emily.
I'll try to make the letters interesting.
You know, Emily, whenever I meet a farmer, I ask him if it's important to go to agriculture school to be a good farmer.
Why, George?
Yeah, and some of them say it's just a waste of time. You get all those things from the pamphlet the government sends out. And Uncle Luke's getting old, and he's about ready to have me work on his farm, if I could.
Hi.
And like you say, being gone all the time, in other places, and meeting other people, gosh, if anything like that happens, I wouldn't want to go. I guess new people aren't as good as the old ones. I almost bet they never are. Emily, I feel as if you're as good as a friend of I've got, and I don't need to meet other people in other towns.
But George, maybe it's very important for you to go to agriculture school and learn all that about cattle judging and soils. Of course, I don't know.
Emily, I'm gonna make up my mind right now. I won't go. I'll tell Pa about it tonight.
But George, I don't see why you have to make a decision right now. It's a whole year away.
Emily, I'm glad you spoke to me about that. That fault in my character, what you said was right. But there was one thing wrong in it. And for a year you said I wasn't noticing people? And you, for instance, why you say you were watching me when I did everything? Why, I was doing the same thing about you, all the time. Why, sure, I always thought as you of the chief people I thought about. I always made sure where you were sitting on the bleachers and who you were sitting with. And for 3 days I've been trying to walk home with you. But something's always got in the way. Yesterday I was sitting up against the wall and you walked home with Miss Corcoran.
Oh, George, life's awful funny. How could I have known? I thought that...
Listen, Emily, I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to agriculture school. I feel as if once you found someone you're fond of, I mean a person that's fond of you, that likes you enough to be interested in your character, why, I feel as if that's just as important as going to colleges. And even more so. That's what I think.
I think that's awfully important too.
Emily?
Yes, George?
Emily, if I do improve, I'll make a big change. Could you be?
I am now, and I always have been.
So I guess this is an important conversation we've been having.
Yes.
Wait just a minute. I'll walk you home. Mr. Morgan, I'll have to go home to get the money to pay for this. It'll only take me a minute.
Why, George Gibbs, do you mean to tell me?
Yes, but I have reasons, Mr. Morgan. Look, here's my gold watch to keep until I come back with the money.
Keep your gold watch, George. I'll trust you.
I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I'll trust you 10 years, George Gibbs, and not a day over. All over your shock, Emily?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Morgan. It was nothing.
I'm ready.
Now we'll get on to the wedding. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding, and a lot of thoughts that go on during a wedding. We can't get them all into one wedding, naturally, especially a wedding at Grover's Corners, where weddings are mighty short and plain. In this play, I take part as the minister, and that gives me the right to say a few things more. For a while now, the play gets pretty serious. You see, some churches say that wedding is a sacrament. I don't quite know what that means, but I can guess. Like Mrs. Gibbs said a while ago, people are supposed to live 2 by 2. Well, this is a good wedding. The people are pretty young, but they chose right, and they come from a good state. The real hero of the scene isn't on the stage at all. You all know who that is. It's like what one of those European fellas said. Every time a baby is born into the world, it's nature's attempt to make a perfect human being. Well, we've seen nature pushing and contriving for some time now. We all know she's interested in quantity, but I think she's interested in quality too. Maybe she's trying to make another good governor for New Hampshire. At least, that's what Emily hopes. And don't forget the witnesses of this wedding, the ancestors, millions of them.
Almost all set out to live 2 by 2. Millions. Well, that's my sermon. Twain't very long, anyway.
Oh, I don't know why on earth I should be crying. I suppose there's something to cry about. It came over me this morning at breakfast. There was Emily, eating her breakfast after 10 for 17 years. And now, she's going off to eat it in someone else's house. I suppose that's it. And Emily, she suddenly said, I can't eat another mouthful. And she put her head on the table and she cried. Oh, I've got to say it. You know, that's something downright cool about sending girls into marriages like that. It's cool. I know, but I just couldn't get myself to say anything. I went into it as blind as a bat myself. The whole world's wrong. That's what's the matter. There they come.
Hey, George, look at him, fellas. He's scared to death. You don't have to look so innocent, you old geezer.
I know what you're thinking.
Don't disgrace the team, big boy. Woohoo! Yeah!
All right. That's enough of that. Woo! There used to be a lot of that kind of thing in the old days. Rome and later. We're more civilized now. So they say.
Why, George, what's the matter?
Ma, I don't want to grow old. Why is everyone pushing me so?
Why, George, you wanted it.
No, Ma. Listen to me.
No, George, you're a man now.
Listen, Ma. For the last time I ask you, all I want to do is be a fella.
George! If anybody should hear you. Now stop. Why, I'm ashamed of you.
What? Where's Emily?
George, you gave me such a turn.
Cheer up, Ma. I'm getting married.
Let me catch my breath a minute.
Now, Ma, you save Thursday nights. Emily and I are coming over every Thursday nights for dinner. You'll see, Ma. Well, what are you crying for? Come on. We've got to get ready for this.
Never felt so alone in my whole life. George over there. I hate it. I wish I were dead. Papa!
Emily, now don't get upset.
But Papa, I don't want to get married.
Shh, Emily, you're just nervous.
Why can't I stay for a while just as I am? Let's go away.
Shh, Emily, now stop and think a minute.
Don't you remember what you used to say all the time? That I was your girl. There must be lots of places we could go. I would work for you. I could keep house and...
Shh, Emily, you mustn't think of such things. You're just nervous. Now. George, will you come here a minute? Why, you're marrying the best young fellow in the world. George is a fine fellow.
But Papa...
I'm giving away my daughter, George. Do you think you can take care of her?
Mr. Webb, I want to. I want to try, Emily. I'm going to do my best. I love you, Emily. I need you.
Well, if you love me, help me. All I want is for someone to love me.
I will, Emily. Emily, I'll try.
And I mean forever, do you hear? Forever and ever.
Come, they're waiting for us. Now, you know it'll be all right. Come quick.
You, George, take this woman Emily to be your wedded wife, to have and to hold, from this day forward, in sickness and in health, for richer and for poorer, to love and to cherish, to death do us part.
Perfectly lovely wedding. Loveliest wedding I ever saw. Oh, I do love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
I do.
Do you, Emily, take this man George to be your wedded husband, to have and to hold.
Don't know why it is, but I always cry. I just like to see people happy, don't you? Oh, I think it's lovely.
I do.
I've married 200 couples in my day. Do I believe in it? I don't know. I suppose I do. M marries N. Millions of them. The cottage, the go-kart, the Sunday afternoon drives in the Ford, the first rheumatism, the grandchildren, the second rheumatism, the deathbed, the reading of the will. Once in 1,000 times it's interesting. Well, let's have Mendelssohn's Wedding March.
They are a lovely couple, aren't they? Oh, I've never been to such a nice wedding. I'm sure they'll be happy. I always say, happiness, that's the great thing. The important thing is to be happy.
Well, that's the second act, folks. 10 minutes intermission.
Good morning, Howie. Do you think it's going to rain again?
Oh, it's been raining so heavy, I think maybe it'll lighten up.
Certainly hope it will.
How much did you want today?
I'm going to have a house full of relations, Howie. Looks to me I'll need 3 of milk and 2 of cream.
3 milk, 2 cream. My wife says to tell you that we hope they'll be happy. We know they will.
Thanks a lot, Howie. And tell your wife I hope she can get there to the wedding.
Oh yes, she'll be there. She'll be there if she can. Morning, Mrs. Webb.
Good morning, Mr. Hickson. I told you 4 quarts of milk, but I hope you can spare me another.
Yes'm, and 2 cream.
Will it start raining again, Mr. Hickson?
I was just telling Mrs. Gibbs over there that I think it'll lighten up. My wife told me to tell you special that we hope they'll be happy. No, they will.
I thank you, and thank Mrs. Hickson, and that we're counting you and seeing you at the church.
Yes, we hope to get there all right. Couldn't miss that now, could we? Come on, Bessie.
Art thou weary? Art thou languid? Art thou sore distressed? Come to me, saith one, and coming
this time, 9 years have gone by, friends. Summer, 1913. Gradual change in Grover's Corners. Horses are getting rare. Farmers coming into town in Fords. Everyone left their house doors now at night. Ain't been any burglars yet, but everyone's heard of them. You'd be surprised, though. On the whole, things don't change much around here. This is certainly an important part of Grover's Corners. It's on a hilltop, a windy hilltop. Lots of sky, lots of clouds, often lots of sun and moon and stars. You come up here on a fine afternoon, and you can see range on range of hills. Awful blue they are. Up there by Lake Sunapee and Lake Winnipesaukee, if you go way up, you can see the White Mountains and Mount Washington, where North Conway and Conway is. And of course, our favorite mountain, Mount Monadnock's right here. And all around it lie these towns, Jaffrey and North Jaffrey and Peterborough and Dublin. And there, quite a ways down, is Grover's Corners. Yes, a beautiful spot up there. Mountain laurel and lilacs. I often wonder why people like to be buried in Woodlawn or Brooklyn, and my pet saint up here, in New Hampshire. Over here are the old stones, 1660 through 1670. Strong-minded people came a long ways to be independent. Some people walk around laughing at the funny words on tombstones. Don't do any harm. Genealogists come up from Boston, get paid by people who look up their ancestors. They want to make sure they're daughters of the American Revolution and of the Mayflower. Well, I guess that don't do any harm either. Over here are some Civil War veterans, iron flags on their graves. New Hampshire boys had a notion that the Union ought to be kept together, though they never seen more than 50 miles of it themselves. All they knew was the name, friends. The United States of America. The United States of America. And they went and died about it. Well, here's some of your friends. There's Mrs. Gibbs and Mr. Stimson, organist of the Congregational Church, and many others, and Editor Webb's boy Wallace, whose appendix burst while he was on a Boy Scout trip to Crawford Notch. Yes, an awful lot of sorrow has just sort of quieted down up here. People just wild with grief have brought their relatives up to this hill, and then times. Sunny days, rainy days, snow, we all know how it is. A lot of thoughts come up here night and day, but there's no post office. There are some things we all know. We don't take them out looking at them very often. We all know that something is eternal, and it ain't houses, and it ain't names, and it ain't earth, and it ain't even the stars. Everyone knows it in their bones that something is eternal, and that something has to do with human beings. All the greatest people ever lived have been telling us that 5,000 years, and you'd be surprised at how many people are always letting go of that fact. You know, the dead don't stay interested in us living for very long. Gradually, they let go hold of the earth, and the ambitions they had, the pleasures they had, the things they suffered, the people they loved, they get weaned away from the earth. That's the way I'll put it, weaned away. They stay here, while the earth part of them burns away, burns out. And all that time, they slowly get indifferent to what's going on in Grover's Corners. They're waiting. They're waiting for something they feel is coming. Something important and great. Aren't they waiting for the eternal part of them to come out clear? Some of the things they're going to say, maybe it'll hurt your feelings. That's the way it is. Mother and daughter, husband and wife, enemy and enemy, money and miser, all those terribly important things kind of grow pale around here. And what's left? What's left when memory's gone? And your identity, isn't it? Well, here's some of the people. There's Joe Stoddard, an undertaker, who provides a new-made grave. And here comes Sam Craig, a Grover's Corners boy that left time ago out west.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Let me see now. Do I know you?
I'm Sam Craig.
Gracious sakes alive. Of all people, I should have known you'd be back for the funeral. Been away a long time, Sam.
Yes, I've been away over 12 years. I'm in business out in Buffalo now, but I was in the East when I heard of my cousin's death, so I thought I'd combine things a little and see the old house. You look well.
Oh, yes, can't complain. Very sad our journey today, Samuel.
Yes.
Yes, yes. I always say I hate to supervise when a young person is taken. They'll be here in a few minutes. I had to come here early. My son's supervising at home.
Old Farmer McCarthy. I used to do chores for him after school. He had the lumbago.
Yes, we brought Farmer McCarthy here a number of years ago now.
Why, this is my Aunt Julia from the G. Of course, of course.
Yes, Doc Gibbs lost his wife 2-3 years ago around this time. And today's another bad blow for him as well.
That's my sister Carrie's boy, Sam Carrick.
I'm always uncomfortable when they're around.
Simon.
Joe, did they choose their own verses much?
No, mostly the bereaved pick a verse.
Why, this does sound like Aunt Julia. Well, there aren't many of those Hershey sisters left now, I suppose. Let me see. I want to see my mothers and fathers.
Over there with the Craigs, Avenue F.
He was organized at church, wasn't he? Drink a lot, we used to say.
Nobody was supposed to know about it. He'd seen a peck of trouble. Took his own life, you know?
Oh, did he?
Hung himself in the attic. They tried to hush it up, but of course it got around. Chose his own epitaph. You can see it there. In a verse exactly.
What? Why, it's just some notes of music. What does it mean?
Oh, I wouldn't know. It was all wrote up in the Boston papers at the time.
What did she die of?
Who?
My cousin.
Oh, didn't you know? Had trouble bringing a baby into the world. Was her second, though. There's a little boy about 4 years old.
And the grave's going to be over there?
Yes, ain't much more room among the Gibbses. They're opening up a whole new Gibbs section over in Avenue B. You'll excuse me now. I see they're coming.
Who is it, Julia?
Daughter-in-law, Emily Webb.
Her eyes are clear. The red hair must have been awfully muddy. When did she die of, Julia?
In childbirth.
Childbirth. Why, I'd forgotten all about that. Mine wasn't like awful and wonderful.
Wonderful, was it?
Simon, now remember.
I remember Emily's wedding. Perfectly lovely wedding. And I remember her reading the class comic graduation exercises. Emily was one of the brightest girls ever graduated from high school. I've heard Principal Wilkins say so time after time. I called on them at the new farm, just before I died. Perfectly lovely farm.
Ah, yeah. It's on the same road we lived on. Yeah, right, smart Ron. You know, I always liked that hymn. I was hoping they'd sing a hymn.
Hello.
Oh, Emily.
No, Mother Gibbs. Hello. It's raining.
Esther, they're gone soon. Just rest yourself.
These thousands and thousands of years since Papa remembered that was my favorite hymn. Wish I'd been here a long time. I don't like being new here. Oh, how do you do, Mr. Stimson?
How do, Emily?
Mother Gibbs, George and I made that farm into just the best place you ever saw. We thought of you all the time. We wanted to show you the new barn and the long cement drinking fountain we had there for the stock. We bought that out of the money you left us.
I did?
Don't you remember, Mother Gibbs? The legacy you left us? Why, it was over $350.
Yes, Emily.
Well, there's a patent device in this drinking fountain so that it never overflows, Mother Gibbs. And it never sinks below a certain mark they have there. It's fun. It won't be the same to George without me, but love the farm. Life people don't understand, do they?
No, dear, not very much.
They're sort of shut up in little boxes, aren't they? I feel as though I took a class 1,000 years ago. My little boy is spending the day at Mrs. Carter's. Oh, Mrs. Carter! My little boy is spending the day at your place.
Is he?
Yes, he loves it there. We've afford 2 Mother Gibbs. Never gives any trouble. I don't try with them. Mother Gibbs, when does this feeling go away of being one of them? How long does it?
Shh, dear, just wait and be patient.
I know. Look, they're finished. They're going. Look, Father Gibbs is bringing some of my flowers to you. He looks just like George, doesn't he? Mother Gibbs, I never realized before how troubled and how in the dark live persons are. Look at him, I loved him so. From morning till night, that's all they are. Troubled.
A little cooler than it was. Naya, that rain's cooled it off a little. Those northeast winds always do the same thing, don't they? If it ain't to rain, it's a 3-day blow.
But one can go back, Mother Gibbs. One can go back there into living. I feel it. I know it. Why, just for a moment I was thinking about the farm. And for a moment I was there. My baby on my lap as plain as day.
Yes, of course you can.
I can go back and live all those days over again. Why not?
All I can say is, Emily, don't.
But it's true, isn't it? I can go and live back there again.
Yes, some have tried. They soon come back here.
Don't do it, Emily.
Emily, don't. It's not what you think it would be.
But I won't live over a sad day. I choose a happy one. I choose the day I first knew that I loved George. Why should that be painful?
Well, you not only live it, but you watch yourself living it.
Yes?
And as you watch it, you know things that they down there never know. You see the future. You know what happens afterwards.
But is that painful? Why?
That's not the only reason why I shouldn't do it, Emily. When you've been here longer, you'll see that our life here is to forget all that and to think only of what's ahead, and to be ready for what's ahead. When you've been here longer, you'll understand.
But Mother Gibbs, how can I ever forget that life? It's all I know. It's all I had.
Emily, it isn't wise. Really, it isn't.
But it's a thing I must know for myself. We'll choose a happy day anyway.
No, at least choose an unimportant day. Choose the least important day in your life. It will be important enough.
Well, then it can't be since I was married, or since the baby was born. I can choose a birthday at least, can't I? I'll choose my 12th birthday.
All right. It's February 11th, 1899, a Tuesday. Do you want any special time today?
Oh, I want the whole day.
We'll begin at dawn. You remember, it had been snowing for a couple of days. It had stopped the night before, and they began clearing the roads. The sun's coming up.
There's Main Street. And there's Mr. Morgan's drugstore before he changed it. And is that the livery stable?
Yes. It's 1899. This is 14 years ago.
That's the town I knew as a little girl. Oh, look! And there's the old white fence that used to be around our yard. Oh, I'd forgotten that. I love it so. Are they inside?
Yes. Your mother will be coming downstairs in a minute to make breakfast.
Will she?
And remember, your father had been away for a couple of days. He'd been back at his college in western New York at Clinton to make a speech. He's
No.
coming back on the early morning train.
And look, there's Howie Newsom. And there's our policeman, but he's dead. He died.
Morning, Bill.
Morning, Howie.
You're up early.
Been
Yeah.
rescuing the party named Darnay First to death down in Polish town. Got drunk and laid out the mattress. Thought he was in bed when I shook him.
And there's Cy Crowell.
Good morning, Mr. Warren. Morning, Howie.
Morning, Cy.
Mama, I'm here. Oh, how young Mama looks. I didn't know Mama was ever that young.
You can come and get for the kitchen fire if you like, but hurry. Good morning, Mr. Newsom. Whew, it's cold.
Yep, 10 below by Von Barn, Mrs. Webb.
Think of it. Keep yourself wrapped up.
Come on, Bessie. Giddy up.
Mama, I can't find my blue hair ribbon anywhere.
Just open your eyes through, that's all. I let out these stuff off the dresser there. If it were a snake, it'd bite you.
Yes. Yes.
Good morning, Bill.
Morning, Mr. Webb. You're up early.
Yes, just been back from my old college in New York State. Been any trouble here?
This morning I was called up to rescue a Polish fellow, Darnay First to death.
You must get it in the paper.
It wasn't much.
Papa.
Good morning, Mother.
How did it go, Carl?
Oh, fine, I guess. I told him a few things. Anything happen here?
Nothing happened special. Been right cold. Howie Newsom said 10 below for the his barn.
It's colder than that at Hamilton College. Students' ears are falling off. It ain't Christian. Paper have any mistakes in it?
None that I noticed. Oh, coffee's ready when you want it. Charles, don't forget, it's Emily's birthday. Did you want me to get her anything?
Yes, I've got something right here. Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
No interruption now, Charles. You can see her at breakfast. It's slow enough as it is. Hurry up, children. 7 o'clock. No, I don't want to call you again.
I can't bear it. So young and beautiful. Why did they ever have to get old? Mama, I'm here. I'm grown up. I love you all, everything. I can't look at everything hard enough. Good morning, Mama.
Oh, Mama, dear, a very happy birthday to my girl, and many happy returns. There are surprises waiting for you on the kitchen table.
Oh, Mama, you shouldn't have. I can't.
So birthday or no birthday, I want you to eat your breakfast good and slow. I want you to grow up and be a big, strong girl. That in the blue paper is something you can't carry. And I guess you could brought over the postcard album. George Gibbs come over in the cold pretty early. Right nice of him.
Oh, George. I'd forgotten that.
Hear that bacon good and slow. It'll help keep you warm on a cold day.
Oh, Mama, just look at me 1 minute as though you really saw me. Mama! 14 years have gone by, Mama. I'm dead. You're a grandmother, Mama. I married George Gibbs. Mama, Wally's dead too. His appendix burst on a camping trip to Crawford Notch. He felt just terrible about it. Don't you remember? But just for a moment, we're all together, Mama. Just for a moment, let's be happy. Let's look at one another.
That and the yellow paper is something I found in the attic among your grandmother's things. You're old enough to wear it now, and I thought you might like it.
And this is from you. My Mama. It's lovely, and it's just what I wanted. It's beautiful.
Well, I hope you like it. I hunted it all over. You ain't nowhere to find one in Concord, so I had to send it all the way to Boston. Wally has something for you, too. He made it at manual training class, and he's very proud of it. Makes sure you make a big fuss about it. Your father has something for you, too. Don't know what it is myself. Here it comes.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
I can't go on. It goes so fast. We don't have time to look at one another. I didn't realize. So all that was going on, and we never noticed. Take me back, up the hill to my grave. But first, wait. One more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners. Mama and Papa. Goodbye to my buttered clock ticking and my butternut tree and Mama's sunflowers and food and coffee and new iron dresses and hot baths and sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anyone to realize you. Do any human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute.
No, saints and poets maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back.
Were you happy?
No, I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are, just blind people.
Look, it's clearing up. The stars are coming out.
Mr. Stimson, I should have listened to them.
Yes, now you know that's what it was like to be alive. To go up and down trampling on the feelings of those about you. To go about in a cloud of ignorance. To spend and waste time as though you had a million years. Now you know that's the happy existence you meant to go back to. Ignorance and blindness.
Stimson, that ain't the whole truth and you know it. Emily, look at that star. I forgot its name.
My boy Joel was a sailor. Knew 'em all. He used to sit in the porch evenings and tell 'em all by name. Yes, sir. Wonderful. Star's mighty good company. Yes, it is.
There's one of them coming.
That's funny. Ain't no time for 'em to be here. Goodness sakes.
Mother Gibbs! It's George.
Shh, dear. Just rest yourself.
It's George.
And my boy Joel knew the stars. He used to say it took millions of years for that little speck of light to get down to Earth. It don't seem like a boy could believe it, but that's what he used to say. Millions of years.
Goodness, that ain't no way to behave. He ought to be home.
Mother Gibbs,
Emily?
they don't understand, do they?
No, dear. They don't understand.
Most everyone's asleep in Grover's corner. There are a few lights on. Judy Hawkins down at the depot has just watched the Albany train go. And at the livery stable, someone's sitting up late and talking. Yes, it's clearing up. There are the stars, doing their old crisscross in the skies. Scholars hadn't settled the matter yet, but they seem to think there are no living beings up there, just chalk or fire. Only this one is straining away all the time to make something of itself. The strain is so great that every 16 hours everyone lies down and gets a rest. 11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. Everyone's resting in Grover's Corners. Tomorrow's going to be another day. Get a good rest too. Good night.